call to order the North Kingstown Temporary Advisory Committee on District Discipline, Monday, September 16th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. I don't see anyone who has signed up for public comment. I don't see anyone here for public comment, unless anybody would like to make a comment. Free. All right, so we'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Did everyone get them? I think they were sent out electronically. Did everyone have a chance to look at them? Any changes that wanted to be made or anything else that you want to see? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? All right, the ayes have it. Those are approved. So Rachel, we can get those to Joni, and she can put them up on the website as approved. All right, old business, the temporary advisory committee goals. It's the same goals that we've done. I like to keep them on there so we can look back at them if we need to. I think for the purposes of today, we can just move on to the regular business, and we'll come back to some of the specific deliverables another time. Advisory subcommittee membership. I just wanted to check in with everybody and make sure everybody's still available to be on this subcommittee, kind of re-up everything. Rachel shared with me she didn't receive any bounce back emails, so we believe everyone's still here. Everything looks fine, but I just wanted to, we'll check in with everybody who's not here today and just make sure they're able to still be a part of the committee, or if we need to replace anyone, or if there's any openings that might need to be. But I just wanted to touch base with everybody about it to make sure that you are still willing to be committed and be a part of the committee, because I know the committee itself has to be reapproved by the school committee in a month or so, maybe at the next meeting. I have to look into that.
We're a little behind our schedule.
Yes, we have to look.
One of the things I wanted to mention, I was looking at the membership, and so like technically we have 7 students, but we haven't had 7 students coming regularly. So we wanted to make sure that we still have like the student voice that we
Right.
were seeking. We only have 2 teachers, as far as I can remember. We don't have anybody from the middle school level, unless I am right. And so we're supposed to have 1 from each level.
I don't think so, we just double check.
And we would have had another student, but they had a track meeting, I believe.
Okay,
And we didn't
okay.
receive
Yeah, I know
a
some-
message
some-
from
Yeah,
them.
just as long as like the 7 that are on the books, quote unquote, as the student members are still.
And some of them wouldn't be put on the notes because they didn't get their parental permission yet.
I just, in my head, I'm like, these are
Oh,
the
yeah,
ones that I've
that's okay.
seen, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so that's what I'm thinking. And then, we don't have an educational support professional.
A TA, no.
And I think that's an important voice to have also. So right now, all the advisory committees are going through their membership roles and opening it up where needed. And it might be worth it to do some specific outreach, in my opinion, to those few missing.
But wouldn't that be like new roles that weren't
No,
initially
I'm going
addressed?
right back on the
Oh, okay,
charge
I'm
that
just
was,
double
yeah,
checking.
no, I'm
Alright.
referencing the charge with the membership that it was, striving to include.
So middle school representative, TA, we'll check with the students that have not been here to make sure they're still able to be a part of the committee or interested.
Yeah, I mean, and
Find
that
out.
happens, like, I've had
Yeah.
some fall off, just,
Yeah.
things change and,
Their schedules may have changed, something may have changed that we just don't know about, but we'll check in with them and see what we can do.
Okay, awesome.
I know a couple items down the agenda, we're gonna be talking about an annual meeting calendar, so we'll keep, that could also be a part of it, timing. I know Mondays, typically we get the best response from everybody by far, but we can look at other things if we get, based on the feedback that we get from them.
Okay.
So, we'll look at that. So I just kind of wanted to do a quick review of kind of what we've talked about in the past, and just to make sure I know in the minutes you saw about the examples, and we went through the kind of briefly touched on restorative justice in that program, talked about the possibility of looking into having a student jury as part of a discipline program, to have more student input and voices into that. And then we went through the Castle standards to look to see, kind of or how they organize a disciplinary program with district goals and goals that this committee could also help provide and give input for as well. So I would encourage you all to go back at least, especially to that last meeting, to look and see what we talked about, because some of these things are online and there's links and stuff like that. Really go through them and look and start looking at them and thinking about where we could start heading and where we want to do, because I think because this is such a large topic, I don't think we can do all the actual work in here. I think we may have to do some homework outside, and then bring our comments back to this meeting to share with other people. And if we have to break it down and have like subgroups and 2 people focus on this and 2 people focus on that, we can always look into that as well if it's just easier to do that. But if you guys can just take a look at those, the restorative justice example that we got. I can't remember the name of the school district right now off the top of my head.
Oakland Unified.
Yes, thank you. And then those Castle standards and that, how they organize that. I think that would be a good kind of refresher, picking up where we left off, so we can go through that as well. Anybody else want to say anything about where we left off, kind of thing? All right, so I'll move on to the next. We have the equity audit discipline data. So I was actually out of the state when we did receive some discipline data from the administration, and I have not had a good chance to look over it. I think Jen may have taken some time to look at it. I don't know if you want to share.
So we have the raw data that PCG used, but without their input and without it being attached to the results, it's hard to corroborate that data is what actually went into the results. And at this point, that data, in looking at it, was from the 21-22 school year. So my thought is that, I know we had talked about, wanting to see, was there a pattern in terms of teachers or students or incidences, and I think we can extrapolate some information from that. I looked at it and it does kind of we can break out what the majority of the referrals were for, but I don't think I don't have confidence that we can utilize it in the way that we want to without having it paired up with the results, because it's not a one, I can't tie the 2 together. So I'm sure there was something that PCG did. So my thought is that, we might, if we still want to review data at the line level, we might want to ask for the information from the most current school year. And we can just kind of start fresh with that.
For last year or?
The one that we just finished.
Yeah, so, okay.
23, 24, is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's an ask that we can bring to the school committee, and make it an official, request to have the information provided. Because the other thing I did notice in the data from PCG, the student IDs are withheld. So, which obviously we don't wanna be, but even just to be able to tell, did one student have 25 incidents, and there's no teacher data associated with it, so there's no way to see, is there a pattern there? So I think the best thing to do is to start with fresh data and specifically state, what things we're looking for.
Parameters are, while at the same time be non-identifying, and I think that's.
It's possible, because
yeah.
PCG's information is there's no way in looking at the data you can tell anything other than the school and the incident.
Okay.
You can't tell the grade level. I mean, also you can tell race and freedom, reduced lunch status, all those things that they were looking for. But I can't say Juliet got in trouble 17 times and this is why she got in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I may touch base with you just to come up with firm up that request and that ask of exactly what we may need.
But I think we should make an official motion to have the school committee make the request for that data, because it's September. We've been talking about getting data for months, like, through no fault of anybody in this room, but I feel like it might accelerate the process if the request was formalized through the school committee versus just informal things asking for it.
Okay,
So I'm gonna make that motion.
okay. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Right? Any other discussion? Anybody else wanna offer anything about discipline data? I know you work with discipline data all the time at the high school. Anybody else wanna share anything or feelings about where should we request fresh? Basically, the motion is to request more current data than what was used in the equity audit. So for last school year.
Are we just,
Can I, go ahead.
no, I'm not clear on what data, are we just looking at number of
Yeah, that was
referrals
my
and
same
that?
question.
Or are we looking at what are the admin actions to the incidents? Are we going that deep, like, there was this incident and admin, this were the 3 steps that admin took?
No, not
No.
at that level, like, just like this, student A was referred for this discipline, issue, and this is the, like, nothing happened,
So,
they were
big
suspended.
picture
Big
right
picture,
now.
yes, not like, did you talk to them 6 times before you know what I mean, just what were the
Well,
actual.
well, like in Aspen, we have to put the referral in, and then there's like a drop down, and you have to like code it, you know? So one child could have 3 different,
Mhm.
you know, parent conference,
Yeah.
referral
Right.
to MTSS, or whatever it is. So I just think that would be interesting. I mean, maybe as admin team, we need to continually start the conversation all the time to make sure we're cohesive in the way that we are responding to students' actions, and our response is consistent amongst schools, and it's, you know, somewhat consistent. But, so that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, no,
That I just, yeah.
and I think, like, again, like, and we kinda started, like, chicken before the horse and horse before the carriage, but like, there definitely is work that has to be done, like, from a system standpoint on those types of things, like diving into the student level and like, what can we do to support the students so it doesn't become a discipline issue to begin with. But at the same time, we know that the reason why this committee was created was because there's disproportionate data.
Mhm.
So like, parking aside, how are we going to fix it, we need to be looking at what are the current practices that are allowing that to happen.
Mhm.
And I don't think we can do that without, I mean, honestly, I think we can do it without the data because it's been proven. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise, but I know that the committee wanted to see data. So if we wanna see data, I think we're better off getting more recent data.
I just, similar, and I just wanna make sure I'm understanding it correctly. When we're pulling the data, are you wanting specifically, like suspension rates or also detentions in school, like, yeah?
So like, in my mind, it's like student,
Yep,
some identifier that's not their
Yep.
actual ID number, right?
mhm,
The date, the code that gets entered into Aspen,
Mhm.
and then associated with that student is their demographic information, gender.
okay,
So
so
it's the
not,
referral
not the
only.
outcome, what they did, just
So
like
I
what the
was asking,
referral is,
just the referral.
okay,
But
But
what
we
kids
do
are being
need the
referred to.
outcome because the issue that was identified was the suspension rates. So,
So that's why I was saying
Yeah.
that we all have
like several
di-
outcomes.
like several outcomes for one student, right? Could be suspended, could be restorative, you know, you do it kind of,
whatever information was provided for the audit is what we're looking for again, but
Okay.
just for 22, 23 instead of 21.
Right,
Okay. Anybody else?
Can-
Any more questions?
Can you say that data again? So we're saying the student
referral.
Referral reason.
I can give you the
Yeah, the
thing
action
that's in
code.
there, but
Date.
yeah, yep.
action code,
It's the school that it was done at.
school,
We would want
And
some
response.
identifier for a teacher also.
that's what I was just gonna ask next, like to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously protecting their identity, but is there like a trend there, I think would be a
Right.
valuable piece for
Yep.
us to know too, because there might be a disproportionate percentage of things.
Right,
getting-
right, yeah,
getting-
and I do think that's important.
Yeah, okay,
And right now, that data, at least in the discipline reports that I've seen, teacher is not associated, probably, for privacy purposes.
sure,
But if there can be some type of,
mhm,
teacher 1, 2, 3, 4, however many we have,
mhm,
I think it becomes apparent pretty soon if there's a pattern or not.
sure,
I would make a recommendation that be a smaller group that looks at that data.
mhm,
It
And
could
then
be
brings
one of
it-
the
Yeah,
subcommittees.
summarized, absolutely,
Yeah, because
yeah,
I'd be a little bit concerned that,
No, that data shouldn't be made available, yes.
and that accidentally people would find out
Yeah.
stuff that they shouldn't find out. Do you know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Because it easily
100%,
can, when
yeah.
you disaggregate data, that can
Yeah.
easily happen. But if
Mhm.
it's someone like me who has access to all that data anyway, Jackie,
Yeah,
for
no,
the
that
most
was,
part, maybe,
it was clear that when we were created that it was non-identifiable
and then
data.
brought to here.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a little concerned about the teacher identifier, even
Mhm.
if it's numbers based on the different schedules that teachers have, and some have like 14 kid AP classes, and some have, you know, like, it's
Mhm.
just one of those things where there's gonna be more write-ups from some than another. And if we, as this committee, focus in on that, I'm afraid we'll veer from the issue, like the bigger issue at
Yeah.
hand.
I agree, I think that's important information for admins, that we do it at our building level. You know, we look at trends where most, infractions are occurring, and then, you know, it does lend to which classrooms are more apt to, I feel like for the purpose of this, we do state bigger picture and like philosophically, what do we believe, and where we need to go, like where we are and where we need to go. I think I can get crazy in data, cause I love it, but you don't want it to be misconstrued and people stop.
I'm afraid if we
It
focus
might
on
be
that,
Yeah.
that we will be missing this
I think
bigger
an administrator
picture. And I
should
do
know
think
if it's coming.
building administrators should look at that, I hope that they do.
I hope that, I think that
I
they
just
do.
don't-
They
Yeah,
do.
so it
Yeah,
would be
we
my
do.
role to say, like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Right,
mean?
They do.
And also
Out of
just
80, 60 of them are over here, you know,
Yeah.
it's,
And I also want to add to your point, like one of the practices we had at the high school was we did look at that data, but then we sat with the teachers. Let's say that there were 10 or more failures in their class for a semester. Like, why is that number so high? And rather than saying you did something wrong, it was really just a discussion, and there were trends that were found in there that are similar to what's reflected here.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying in terms of, so it was less about, oh, the teacher did something wrong, and more of what's going on in the classroom and how can we support that. But I definitely agree that we don't want it to be a misconstrued focus.
So I had thought the request for the teacher came from this group because
Yeah.
it did,
I think it did,
but now
yeah.
I'm
It
hearing,
did.
no, we don't want it.
Well, I guess it's every,
I was not here at the last meeting.
This was
But
like,
I-
this
This
was.
was like the
It was a
first-
while.
It
It was
a couple
definitely
meetings
brought
about
up.
it, and then I thought that we ended with no,
Okay.
but that was my,
I thought
that was my
so
memory
too,
of
but
it.
I mean, I guess we would say, what information would it give us for this committee to
yeah,
move forward on? Is it just good to know, or is it really going to impact?
I don't think we needed it.
I don't think
Is
we
it
need
gonna,
it. I'd
it's
rather
gonna
stay-
impact the
keep it out of
policy
it.
we create?
It won't,
Yeah.
so I think we should keep it out.
Because those teachers will always change, in theory,
In
if we're
theory.
building a structure.
That's right, that's right,
Yeah.
we're building the
Sure.
structure and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more about looking at the bigger picture data, but if, you know, I know that our admins look at those patterns of where are those write-ups coming
Right,
from,
right.
yeah.
I think it's important to have a baseline, so if we look at that, if not anything else, from a starting point, if we use last year's data, we have a baseline of any changes, policy changes we made to see if it had an
Mm.
impact.
That's true too.
That might be the most important piece to seek growth.
Is discipline data reviewed, like you said, you sit and you go through the failures, is that done with discipline data on a regular basis?
I can't speak to that only because it doesn't come out of my office.
Okay.
I was looking through more of an academic lens and
Yeah.
it just overlapped. But I can certainly ask the team and get back about
That'd
it.
be great, yeah.
So a little bit more globally to answer, our MTSS team does always review academics, discipline data, and attendance, but it's specifically kind of where it overlaps for a kiddo who might be struggling or at risk. So there's a lot we could be missing with a kid that might have disciplinary data that's high, you know, on the higher end, but maybe they're not coming up on the academic side of things. So in that regard, yes, we do review it as a team, but it's for a very specific, it's about 10% of the population that we're looking at in that.
So not a global review of the discipline.
Right.
Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
What about at the elementary level, Karen?
I can't speak for other schools, I
Okay.
do global, and I do basic, overarching report outs. Like, we know most of our infractions are recess, so then we target a team that addresses recess and what changes are we gonna make, you know, for informed decision making. Of course, if there was any one-offs, I'm not gonna say never, in all my years, is you do get some weighted from one teacher as opposed to the rest, so it's actually really informative as administrator to figure out how big, where's the problem really, right? Where does the support need, and I think, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, and just to reiterate, this is
That
not to
would
target
help
teachers, this
students.
is
Sure,
not,
right.
No, no.
this is just, I
No.
mean, like I said, I think the data that we have clearly shows that we have an issue, so the question is, what are we doing about the issue?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think we can always do better, and we need to do better, and that data helps us strive to where to start. And I think as admins, but is there anything systematically that happens from building to building?
Cause that might be something we wanna make as a recommendation ultimately, is that, we don't wait for another audit to look
Yeah.
at the data, that is something
Absolutely.
that's being reviewed on a regular basis.
Yep.
Well,
Mhm.
suspension rate is reviewed every year, because I have to report if there's disproportionality, regardless special ed or not special ed.
Yeah.
I have to create a plan if it's disproportionate for any reason.
But like at a high level, like, because it doesn't come to the school committee
No,
level,
not
it doesn't come, so
necessarily.
like, those
It
types
could
of
though.
things should be like addressed.
Were we disproportionate last year?
No, not in that particular area.
And it's suspension.
We
It's
were
our
in other
accountability
areas.
system too, so.
Will the data we're requesting for last academic year include like a breakout of if the
They
student
might
is
be,
involved
yeah.
in like special education or not, like have IEP?
Yeah, cause
Yeah.
that's a part of the,
Okay, that's, I
demographic
just
of
wasn't
that
sure.
student.
Okay.
And the data that I have to report to the Department of Ed, it includes not just special ed.
Yeah,
Now I report it, they tell me what it was, cause they pull it from us,
Mhm.
from our grade reports.
and that's what's on the RIDE
But you have to
website, right?
respond to it.
But I have to respond to it. And it's very specific,
Mm.
Can I add something a little bit random, but I had a thought that I wanted to make sure that I bring, not random, but, so one of the questions that came from high school administration in terms of like how we can support this team is, the majority, and this is kind of just an overview, and I would like to be able to come back with specific statistics, but from their words, a majority of the suspensions, particularly out of school, are either substance or physical assault. And so, I guess the question is, with those more cut and dry situations, what is where are we moving to handle those in terms of, because there are some situations that are kinda, you did this and then this needs to be the next, especially if it's marijuana or something along those lines. Physical assault, there's a whole thing, but, I guess how do we get those rates down without getting those things addressed too, was the question. And so I know that branches off a little bit and we wanna try to stay in the nucleus of the discussion, but that was something that got brought up. It's like, how do we handle, if somebody has significant suspensions because they're continuously coming in with, I'll say, marijuana, then how do we get around that number or address that was kind of the concern, so that we are being more mindful of those rates and what we're doing internally. And I know, we're bolstering up programs around that, and that's why I don't wanna get too tangential, but that was their response in terms of most of their suspensions they feel are around a lot of those cut and dry situations. And I don't know if the same was true for the middle or elementary school. Hopefully not elementary, but,
Well, yeah, I mean, those are the easiest decisions to make. I mean, not
Right.
that you want anyone getting assault, but like that's,
I'm not sure
I
what the
think-
ask is, I'm sorry.
so I guess their question was, how do we change those numbers really systemically when there are a lot of that number is around kind of cut and dry situations from their experience.
Well, I mean, some
Prevention.
numbers won't change, I mean,
Right.
it is what it is, and if it is, so it's not, like.
we're not looking at just to change the numbers would be my answer.
That's what concerns me, yes.
Sure.
That would be my answer.
Yes, thank you,
To
Carolyn.
jump in there, I'd be like,
No.
if we need to change our practices, just, other than, because we should,
Right.
the hope is numbers start changing, but,
If you're second guessing whether or not you should be suspending somebody, that makes me wonder, like, why have you not been second guessing it all along, like, really, like, that's.
Right.
So, I think I agree with Carolyn, like, if the numbers are what the numbers are,
Mhm.
and instead of trying to like manipulate the, not manipulate, like, but instead of trying to worry about the numbers, like worry about like the process of how
Yeah.
the decision is being arrived at.
Right, that's what I mean. I don't think that they were really asking
And I think
specifically
the
how to
issue
change
is
the
more
number.
like if you come in with marijuana 16 times and you come in with marijuana 16 times, you
You treat
both
the
should be
same way,
getting
yeah.
suspended for
Right.
16 times.
Yep.
And if you're not,
Why?
then why? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
more the issue, not so much the numbers, but
Yeah.
like to ensure that the discipline is being, put out equitably.
Gotcha.
And that's not happening now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
That might be a good thing to just share, because I think people do start, I know when I was in Providence, like, all about reducing numbers, and for those of you who know me, I'm as real, as you come in and transparent, and it just, it just, no matter what, we're making the best decision for the child that's in front of us. And sometimes we're forced to do something because we have to, but,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think-
sometimes it will be the black kid with an IEP who's come in 6 times, and sometimes it'll be the white kid with no IEP who
Mhm.
comes in 6 times.
and if
So
they
it's
bring a
just-
knife to school,
It's
you
how
have to
they're
act
both
on
Yes,
it.
being
exactly.
It's
It's just
how they're
making sure
being
they
handled.
treat it the same
Yep.
way, right?
No, totally.
Yeah.
That's just to clarify, I think you clarified the data a couple of meetings ago. It was saying student A does the same infraction
Yes.
as student B.
Yes.
But they get different.
Yes, and that's what the issue is,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, like, one level of offense is gonna get handled differently, but it's the same offense being handled differently, and that's what the problem is.
I feel like a lot of the problem is deep rooted, and so we can't do a whole lot. So the question should be what can we do right now? It shouldn't. I don't know. I just feel because it's gonna take a long time to work through completely. So.
And that's a great point, cause it's not a quick fix, because if it was a quick fix, the numbers are gonna change this year, but then next year when nobody's looking, they're gonna go right back up, and that means we haven't fixed the problem. And it's not so much what can we do, but what do we think might make a difference, what can we recommend? Even if we're not actually implementing it, we could say, hey, we think it would be a good idea if you started doing quarterly data reviews. If you had, all students looked at from an intersectional manner with their, academics and their emotional and their discipline, recommend changes.
Yeah, or even if you look at training, it would take years if you look at start training implicit bias and having people look at why are you making the
Oh, yeah.
decisions you're making. That is a very slow change, but I view this as putting the structures in place to recommend how can we start the wheels at
Mhm.
least, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, one thing that came to my mind when you just said, what can we do right now? I wanna remember this correctly. The 2 middle schools have 2 different handbooks for
Yes.
codes of
Mhm.
conduct. I mean, that is a immediate kind of look at it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
They should be the same,
Yep.
we should look at the language and make sure that there is
Mhm.
not objective,
And the
subjective,
makeup of
whatever.
the middle schools are different,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
very.
Yeah, something, there, I feel like we have the opportunity to do things that are getting to the root of the problem, which will take a long time, but also some, maybe not as big fix, but immediate steps.
More immediate.
Can data from this current school year be used in the meetings?
Mm.
In our
Right
meetings?
now?
Right.
It makes it hard to disaggregate if you're looking at patterns.
Right.
You could look at the end of the year, just see if you have the same pattern.
Okay.
But I think what we're talking about is creating a baseline so they have something to compare it to. This is where we are right now, cause I think it's gonna be different than that report.
I think it will
just
too,
based
yeah.
on what the stuff I have to look at. And then look at where we are now, where's it gonna be a year from now, and looking
Okay.
at that. And then maybe even giving people a structure in which to review data quarterly or by the semester or something else.
Yeah. Okay.
So if we show how to do it. What I'll say is just from anecdotally of me looking at discipline and conduct in my role is sometimes the write-ups are not robust enough.
Mm.
So I think that if I was just looking at that, it could look like a situation was being handled differently, but actually this situation was significantly more severe than this situation, but it wasn't written as well as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about with the drop-down choice?
No, boxes where they can talk about the situation in
free-form.
the report. So sometimes you'll get 5 words. This is what I'm saying, I do think, I'm not saying it's not happening, I do think that's happening. However, I also think that we're not documenting well enough,
Mhm.
and that in some cases, that could create disproportionality, 'cause if you write five words and 5 words,
Mhm.
but this situation was actually more significant, had many more involvement, but you still wrote it as 5 words, it looks the same, but it really isn't.
Mhm.
Am I making?
Yes.
So I have
Someone
already
asked
asked a couple of times in a couple of situations, can you provide
They describe the situation.
more robust
How they
documentation?
describe it.
So that could be another.
I think that's
Yeah.
another,
Yeah.
Another-
I think
Yeah.
that's a really big piece of
Yes.
this,
It's
and I
also-
know it's
they're just
volume
kinda
some
like-
days, but it's making a big difference, it makes a big
Disrespecting
difference.
Even just with the drop-down codes from Ryan,
Yes.
because like when I've looked at the data, like it's not,
The
like
actual
what's the difference
language that a
between
student
like
uses.
cutting class and
Mhm.
skipping class,
Mhm.
like it's very like, and I know RIDE requires
Yeah,
certain
a
things,
bigger
but like if
description, like
we
a-
can have a second box added or
But
something,
even
you know what I
Ryan is
mean?
problematic with some of the ways, yes.
Well, yeah, and it's problematic for elementary school.
It's very
Because,
problematic.
yeah, for some of that language is so strong for elementary school, because so much of it is the lagging skills in what we're teaching them.
Right, and
And
they're
it's-
being insubordinate.
Yeah,
No, they're
yeah,
not,
no,
and
no.
they just had trouble.
But it
finding
is, goes back to training with a staff to,
Right, cause you
to
might
talk
write it
through-
one way and Kelly might write it
right,
another
to
way.
talk through,
but
it's
for
not
the
really,
same
it's,
thing,
is it
right.
really insubordinate, but it's, to your point, it's a mind shift probably for many, so that takes a long time, what, 3 to 5 years to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In my current
Takes a while.
role, I oversee, and not through North Kingstown, but through my place of employment, I oversee all alcohol and drug referrals, all sexual assaults, all arrests, et cetera. And what we found when breaking down our data, because we switched systems, so when we switched systems, we had to change the way we coded everything. And when we changed the way we coded everything, it became very clear that we needed to do training one-on-one on report writing, and then also because people were coming in at different levels. And so what we found is like we have an issue right now where someone brought it up earlier about keeping the data private, which I think is important because a number got out of how many students where I work ended up in the hospital for alcohol over our opening weekend at where I work. And that number is actually lower than we've had in years and years, but no one's ever known that specific number.
Mhm.
And then they know that number and it's been this big, they wanna talk everywhere, and in our heads we're like, that's actually a really good number. We're like, what are you talking about?
We're happy with that, yeah.
But I do.
Don't listen to Channel 10.
Oh, exactly. But like, one of our biggest issues when I was like bringing everything over was like the same 2 offenses. Sometimes they were just coded wrong and we completely missed them, or they'd be labeled wrong in our system. And I found like that was like the most frustrating aspect of it. And then now we're at the point where it's been a couple of years, so everything, we try to have everything coded correctly, and then we can actually see the same patterns of what we're looking for here is like, why are we having more marijuana,
Mhm.
right? Why are we having more cannabis referrals within this residence? What is it that makes it up that we're having more here? Because our student body is our student body, right? But I think that one of the biggest impedance we had was our data was wrong.
Right.
And it wasn't across the board. And the earlier you can tackle that and making sure, even if we had to make a working document of like spelling out what that meant, right? And
I agree
And it
with
goes
that.
back to
That
when
we
we were
do.
talking about data, and I was sort of getting at, until we have structures and systems in place, the data, it tells a little bit of a story, but it's
Right.
really inconsistent data, because unless we know everyone was trained in the same way, and we're
Right.
confident that people are coding things consistently, and know how to write an objective infraction on
Yes.
what they actually,
And there are legitimately 2 different codes of conduct for both middle schools.
Right.
There might be different, we don't.
I didn't know that.
No, yeah,
And
it's pretty
I wasn't
egregious.
aware.
I think that's why I keep it,
Why not?
I come back to on the data piece about, what is clear data versus maybe what's skewed data when I bring up the teachers, because did they all get trained in like you're saying, were the way that they were entering it in the same objective, detailed manner enough that they're going to be, getting the same consequence on the other end of it? Or is there implicit bias being addressed equally? Or, what is the training and expectation? Like, for example, I have some teachers that are very much, if this is what my handbook says that my bosses are making sure I'm doing it with fidelity, where we have some that are a little bit more nuanced, and both approaches are okay, but to them, they're still within the lines of reason. And so I guess that's kind of why I keep coming back to that, where it's like I want to make sure our data is valuable to this. But I do think, like, I hear us identifying really great starting points, like unifying our practices, even so much as I know elementary is a little bit different in how we have to handle things, but middle school, in my opinion, could be similar to high school, and like all three of those could kind of be to get the kids ready and prepared for what's expected, and the way that our teachers are being asked to input the referral and the language they're being asked to use and the detail, like I think those are things we could change rather quickly,
Yep.
you know what I mean? And that would help a lot of this.
So did I hear
It's-
us just talk ourselves out of asking for data?
It's a double-edged sword,
No, I
data.
look at it because it's
Look at that big
baseline,
picture,
but then
Yeah.
you can see what
Yeah.
what changes over
Right.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of this committee reviewing it, like I feel like
I
we
think
could
it's
get
worth
it
it.
summarized and then come
Yes.
to
I think
us.
get it
I think summarize
And then
is
at the
okay.
same
I know how
time,
to
we could
recommend.
Yeah.
start with our recommendation
I
is
think
do
so.
the handbook, our
Yeah.
recommendation is implicit bias training, like
Yeah.
kind of like.
I don't think we should ignore it by
Yeah,
any
no, no,
means.
no.
No,
Yeah.
we don't.
Okay,
Yeah, but I agree, I don't think we need, I think a summary is sufficient.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And that way we know when we look at next year, or whoever looks at next year, that at least,
It's apples to apples-ish.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think along the same lines as being taught or instructed in how to report, making sure that we're collecting the data that we actually need to collect.
Mhm.
And it's so it's kind of looking at it from the back end. This is kind of what I do at work anyway. Are we asking the right questions to begin with? Is there something we're missing? Are we asking for too much? Are we asking for not enough? And you know, and are we only doing what we're doing because this is what RIDE says? Should we actually be doing more? Should we be, so there's two ways to look at it, from kind of like the front end and the back end at the same time. So we can look at it.
Is Aspen the best way to collect that data?
Well,
Is
right.
the question I've asked.
Well, yeah,
Multiple
is Aspen the best way to do it? It's all questions.
For
that we can
for
ask.
major issues, it's fine. It's the minor stuff that's not good for. That's my opinion. It's just not, you can't disaggregate it down enough.
Like
You
my-
can't get down
Yeah.
to the actual whys behind it,
Okay.
It's very hard.
I use a Google form, I did share it with, and it breaks it down for just for my minors, but that's where it breaks it down, the location, and everything by the teacher, the location, the student, and it's just great. It's great data. It's when things are stop bubbling, you get to look at it from this to that view, but now we have branching minds, so I'm hoping it does the
Yeah, at the
similar-
elementary though, yeah.
and an elementary
level. So Branching Minds is a
platform.
platform where you
I'm
can
really excited about it, yeah.
academic and behavioral data. But right now it's only at the elementary level.
Can I ask a question just for clarification? Like, when you're talking about more of the minor infractions in Aspen, can you explain what you would like to see that you're not seeing?
I would like to see our ability to, first of all, pull it easier.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard to disaggregate out of Aspen
Yeah,
They don't-
because
in general.
it does in general, just
Okay.
in general. It's not user friendly for that purpose because it wasn't built for that purpose.
Yeah.
I'm talking about minors only, right?
Yeah.
I also think it's very hard for us to identify patterns because of the disaggregation being poor.
Mhm.
If you had it when you have it in a Google Doc, then you
Mhm.
can make a pie chart, a bar chart, spreadsheet, whatever you
I see
want
what
from
you're
that data really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think you can more quickly identify which teachers for admin level, which teachers are having the more issues. Middle school, it might be, it's one particular lunch period that you start seeing more. I think it's just easier and
Yeah.
quicker to disaggregate data. If you asked me today to go into Aspen and disaggregate the minors, it's gonna be really hard, it's gonna take a long time. If I had a Google Doc,
'Cause
I
it's
hit
one
click,
They don't make
you know,
Right.
it's just not
So-
intended for that, and it's really not
It's just a
intended.
It doesn't
record keeper.
differentiate
Right.
minors
It's not like an analytics tool.
It's our default.
Yeah.
Can we
it's
go
our default.
backwards? Like, can we have our own form and then have
Yeah, we were
a
talking about
program to
that.
upload
It did get
into
brought up
Aspen?
recently.
Yeah, we're talking about that,
Yeah.
as part of MTSS, yep.
I mean, cause that sounds to me like it would
Mr.
handle,
Mezzanotte and, yeah.
handle the building level issues, and then
Correct.
there's still the RIDE reporting issue, and the information has to be
if
adapted.
you had a
It's
good working
Correct.
form across the board, that.
just upload
That's
it.
what we're working
Yep.
on right now,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Is there an aspect of this, not to get in the nitty gritty, that, so if it's on the form, how does it get communicated to the families? Or does,
Well, minors wouldn't necessarily,
So I have a drop down that says, for the teacher, what have you done? Reteach the expectation, parent conference, parent call.
Gotcha.
And then if they call the parent, and if they don't call the parent after 3 times, sometimes I'm like, my kid, I'd wanna know maybe, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like,
right,
oh
right.
yeah, so it's just, it's a good communication tool.
Gotcha, so it's embedded in the
You
question.
can create what you want, so really,
Yeah.
like, what did the teacher do? So, and then it gives you as an admin an idea of what's already been done, so if you
Sure.
have to follow up, you already know what's been done.
Gotcha,
So.
Have you seen our safety care form?
yes,
There's a lot of if-thens in there
Yeah,
that I've
yeah.
created. If this happens, then you go, if you see the actual back-end document,
Yeah.
it's complicated because if this said this, then it goes to this and all that. You can create that same type of thing for this form.
Mhm.
So you could really look at the data, and then at the end it says, how did you communicate with the family, right? There's a piece of that, that's part of that form.
So I hear, we've talked a lot about like data and like what the administration needs, like in order to support the work, but I haven't heard much from the students and what they feel, right? And I get that a feeling isn't a number, but data is like a number with a story behind it. So like,
yeah.
what do you all like, this is great, like we're gonna code things and everything, but like when you think about the discipline system, how does it make you feel?
Effective, for sure.
What?
Mr. Roki does a lot for everyone. I feel like you guys make it super clear that you're always there to talk, right? It's not like black and white,
Mhm.
where it's just, you know, you guys say this and then we have to do that,
Mhm.
or a punishment or whatever sense that is in that situation. But what I'm trying to say is like they're always open to like be there for us as students that need help, and even if we're still being disciplined in our own scenario or way, like it's not like, doesn't get a bad rap on our end because they're pretty open about it, you know, in all the assemblies and like emails and like signs around the school and stuff like that. So I like that.
Thank you.
I think that our school, like the high school at our age level, like, you know, we make decisions consciously, like, and the school, we have like you guys created a very open environment for us, like we have multiple like counselors and psychologists, whatever you need, like it's there. Whatever type of resource, like you can find it within the building, and I think that that's like amazing compared to, I lived in the Dominican Republic for a year, my sophomore year of high school, and that was like not the case like at all. Like if I had any type of crisis or emergency, like I would literally just have to like suck it up. And so coming back here, like it was, last year was definitely a refreshment. As for like the discipline of it, like I think that again, like we're mature enough, like you know, like your decisions bring consequences, whatever those may be, and I think that our system is pretty like equal, like, you know, I don't feel like there's any type of, I don't know how to say it, just, I think that it's equal. I agree with all of our
I feel
policies.
like behaviors are being addressed equally amongst whatever. So if someone makes a choice, they probably know what the consequence is going to be.
I agree.
Do you feel that's changed from your sophomore year to this year? Like, do you feel that the climate around that is different?
Not at all.
No.
Not negatively anyway.
No, I was thinking in a positive way, like,
Yeah.
has that improved? Did it used to be a different way and now it's better?
Well, I spent my freshman year and then I went to the DR. My freshman year, it was like a lot like more like kind of like free for all. I don't know, like we were just coming out of COVID and stuff, so we were still wearing masks and like the environment was just a lot more different. Like now it's more stricter, but like in a great way, in a good way.
I have a question. Do you all do climate surveys like every year?
We do.
Yeah, we do different surveys, like
Once a year, right?
if you're, what's the word for it? The connection survey, is that what you mean, like if you're connected to an adult in the building?
Like title, like those were like
Like survey work, is
federal
that one?
requirement, like looking at like the, I was gonna say campus culture, but
Yeah,
climate.
survey
They do that,
works.
yeah,
Yes.
survey
Okay.
works.
We do survey works, we do like a general, last year we did a connection survey that
Okay.
targeted a lot of, you know, what's your social emotional
Yeah, okay.
spectrum, like how you feeling, do you feel supported, do you have an adult in the building, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And that usually gets reviewed through the MTSS team.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard two really positive: safe place and
Yeah.
place knowing that you have an adult to connect with.
Yeah.
Like, that's baseline. So critical. So, and I can't imagine in a high school that big, you know, that it's hard.
take it easy though.
Yeah, I feel like once you get through, like, I mean, us three, at least we're seniors, and through my years, I've met so many teachers and staff there that had made me feel so safe. Like,
Yeah, I
I
agree.
could go to probably like 10 different teachers and be okay talking with them about like a situation that was like stressing or upsetting.
Yeah, I think there's probably very few in that building that are not unwelcoming. Like all our teachers are amazing.
So hearing all that, which is like great news, like why, just spitballing, like, so why do you think the numbers would show that certain students are getting disciplined in a different way than other students? for
Is
the
there a
same
certain
thing?
demographic that you're talking about?
Yeah, it statistically shows, you know, black students, mixed race students, students with IEPs are all having discipline offenses more than white, non-free lunch, non-IEP students.
Well, I can't speak for them because obviously I don't have that experience, but I think a lot of their behaviors all resonate with each other. Like, a lot of them hang out in the same areas, you know, in the hallways. You do bathroom duty on the first floor before school because I see you there.
Every day. Yeah.
There's a
He knows
line.
where not to go.
He knows it. They know.
No, yeah, there is a line, a
Yeah.
very long line,
There is a line.
and a lot of them fit that demographic at the beginning of the school. And I think a lot of discipline comes from times of the day like that when, you know, it's not even in the middle of the school, but they're just out, you know, coming back into school from their regular life. And you know, like I said, I can't relate to them, but I think they do like segregate into like their own behaviors as a group, and a lot of that the patterns that you guys see with that demographic could be coming from the similarities where they, you know, behave and hang out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, to add on to that, I, like, while we were talking about this and how it's, like, so positive, I've, like, to me it's positive too, but I've also, like, observed how a lot of kids in our school wouldn't say it's positive.
That's true.
And they don't feel supported. And, like, I think it's a group thing. Like, a lot of different, there's still, like, they're not as, like, prominent, but there's still, like, cliques in school social life. So, a lot of different people, like, hang out together, and it's still the same thing as, oh, I'll do something that they think is cool, and so they all, like, badly influence each other, and it's hard to break out of that. I've noticed that with a lot of different demographics. And so that still happens, and then when they misbehave or they do something that requires consequence, it's a lot of that group specifically.
I think it's students who, not every subgroup, but there are some where maybe some of these students had an undiagnosed disability for a long time, and their behaviors are a symptom of avoiding work avoidance, not feeling good about themselves in school, or students have, you know, food insecurity, you know, they're not their best selves, and then like the compounding, by the time you get to high school and you're feeling about school and whether you're good at it and the identity you formed about yourself, I feel like a lot of that goes into that, and it starts really, really young.
Yeah.
And that, like, I'm not disputing any of that, but what I'm hearing is just a little concerning, because I just wanna make sure that we're clear on the fact that it's not that, you know, black or poor or IEP students are committing the offenses any more than any other students. I think that's super important to, like, put that out there, cause that's not the case. It's that if two people are doing it, they are the ones who are getting punished. So that's kind of where we're going here, like, so, so
That's
it,
the bias.
That's
it's a bias, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
And so that's my concern, so I'm just wondering, like, cause it's not, it's
I
something
have
inherent
a
about the
wonder, so
people.
this is where I would wanna desegregate the data a little bit more as we go back to the data. Because also, if Jackie has done, it looks like both of you have the same infraction on this day, but this is the 5th time you've done it, your consequence might look different than yours,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
There
So
is a-
there's
there is
also
a
that
matrix.
All
Right.
that, all
nuance.
that
If it
data was
starts
pulled
low
out
down,
though.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, if it is the identity, like, if you asked teachers to picture what's the perfect student in their brain, it wouldn't be like, you know, somebody who's up and out of their seat.
Right.
And that starts young, and then, you know, I feel like it does compound, but it's from years of that. But Yes, I hear what you're saying.
Okay, so is it a teacher education, is it a professional development, like, is that a
Yes,
component
yes.
of it? I feel like it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a component.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing, ask for data,
Did we go full
non-teacher,
Did
not
we just ask for
identifying-
data again?
Not, yeah, we went from asking for it to maybe not, and yeah, I think we should. But not identify or attach teacher identification in any way, but leave the other demographics in the school
Yeah.
identification.
Basically the same information that came to us the last time, just for the more current school year.
Okay, all right.
And then I heard a ton of great ideas of
Yep.
things that we can like
Look out right
actually
away.
put our hands in and start
Right.
doing. Is there anything that people think, sorry Rob, I'm like in meeting mode, like anything that people think we should ask for or recommend now?
I think we should look at the handbooks, because is it too late to make changes with that?
Never too late.
No.
Never too late? Cause
No.
I was not aware, frankly, I didn't pay that, there's so many schools for me that I don't look at every single handbook.
I was hoping
There's
I was
one
remembering it
elementary, right?
correctly.
Yes, you
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
You are.
Okay,
You
and
are.
some of
No,
the-
everyone agreed with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
and
are.
the Davisville Academy handbook was actually great, like it was
Yep.
super,
Positive.
like positive reinforcement, and
we were
like it was
really,
really,
really
like,
trying,
you
yeah.
could really
Yeah.
see the difference.
Yep.
Yeah, and Joe would be here, but he cracked a tooth, so
Oh.
just wanna let you know. But
Oh,
I'll pass
no.
along, yeah.
Can I ask a quick
But I
question
will pass that
on
along
that?
to him, yeah, he cracked a tooth.
So when we were talking about,
You know, it's like-
groups of people that maybe don't feel as supported, do you have any thoughts or wonders or ideas as to why or how we could change that?
I don't know, because I feel like it's a lot of,
I don't mean to put you on the spot, I just,
No,
I'm,
I
I'm
know.
curious
Right
about
now.
it.
cause I have a lot of friends who don't feel like the school's doing anything to help them. And
Okay.
I don't know if it's because they have like a history of like not trusting people, and so it like just that distrust, like they don't like go to anyone, and then it just kind of circles
Right.
around, and then it like
Do you think they know, I don't mean to cut you off, do you think they know where to go or who to go to?
I think so.
I'm not sure if they trust them.
Yeah.
Can
Right.
I ask,
Yeah.
can I
Like the
ask you
not-
something
two-way
else too?
street of you
What
trusting
I've
them
seen,
and them
and I go to a lot of meetings, so,
Mhm.
and a lot of meetings, and what I've seen is, students who don't see a future,
Mm.
in many cases, like they can't see beyond high school.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
can't see the fact that education is your way, even if you come from a low income demographic, whatever it is, your way out of that is education. That really is the only way out in order to move yourself up to be able to, unless you become independently wealthy overnight, which doesn't really happen for most, your way out is education. But what I see is a lack of hope. Like there's
Yeah.
a lack of, I can't see
Yeah.
what that looks like.
Mm.
It didn't happen for my parents, so I'm not gonna do it either.
Yeah.
So therefore school isn't important.
What's
That's-
the makeup of
And
the
trying to
staff?
get them, and
Ooh.
sometimes it happens when we get into junior and senior year, all of a sudden they realize it is important, and then we're helping them to kinda,
Yeah, that's
does that make sense to
yeah.
you? That's a pattern I see, and it's really frustrating to try to explain to a freshman. This is really important. Sometimes it clicks when they're juniors, sometimes it clicks when they're a senior.
Sometimes it clicks when they're 25.
Sometimes it clicks when they're 57,
Right.
you know, I don't know. What's the demographic of
I
our
was,
teachers?
I was also wondering, yeah,
Not
is
very
the diversity of our, yeah, is
It's
it-
like
It does
98.
not match, I've done the statistics
Yeah.
between the two, and it does not match, and that's been a charge of the DEI subcommittees to try to work on increasing
Yeah.
our workforce and making it look more like our students.
Mhm.
like
And that's, so you think
98%.
this is a big problem, like, that's a big problem too, but that
There's
matters,
just
it
less,
absolutely
there's
Yeah.
less
matters.
teachers that are being graduated with different
Yeah.
demographics too. There's less teachers to begin with, and then trying to
Yeah.
look at
Right.
increasing diversity.
Well, we have
You
the
or
same
I
issue
just
in
got
higher
a
ed.
huge grant
I know, I
to
saw that.
increase
That's
diversity, yeah.
But to echo what Juliet said, like, I have been in meetings with students where I have heard them say that they have brought forward issues and complaints to teachers and nothing has happened, or that they have been in rooms where things have been happening that should be disciplined and are not, right? And so I can understand why that would then
Yeah.
make people
That makes
feel
sense.
like, well, why am I gonna say anything, because I'm
Nothing's
not,
gonna happen.
nothing's
But
going to
that leaves
happen.
the unsafe environment, predictable
Yeah. Correct.
response.
Yes.
So, and a lot,
Mm.
I think it just clicked for me because a lot of these kids don't feel hope, and so for some of these demographics, they don't, so they don't feel hope to get help, so they don't feel like there's like a need to like do any like.
This
how
is
do I
the
phrase
best,
it?
this is the best
Yeah.
it's going to be.
Yeah, so
That's
they,
the overall feeling I get
yeah,
from kids.
so like
It's
they
like a
might
giving
have,
up.
This is the best it's gonna be,
so
and who
there
cares
might
when
be
you're not here.
like a group of kids that have a lot of discipline issues, and then because they don't have any hope and they don't feel like they need to do, like they just do whatever because they don't feel like high school matters,
Mhm.
and then that group starts gaining like stigma around it.
Correct.
And then that influences the teacher's decisions, and that's why we have the.
Mhm.
Correct.
Mm,
They're already
Nice word there,
yeah, exactly
stigma.
right.
Very
It becomes a
insightful.
cycle
good
Yeah.
word.
because they can't. Then the teacher's like, oh, if I let this go, then it's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
They assume that if I let this go, it's gonna get worse in the classroom. So I might as well just bounce them now.
Yeah.
They don't want to be here anyways. Why should I be teaching if they're don't want to be here? I'm not saying this is my feeling, by the way, because my population kids were those kids that didn't have hope, couldn't see their future, and I was always trying to figure out how to help them to understand. I was always being told, I just want to be free, I can't wait to get out of here, and I'm like, well, it's not that, I don't know your definition of freedom, mine
Yeah.
is having choices. You know, even your high school diploma, your choices are limited.
Right.
That's not choice, that's not freedom. You know, over and over and over again, and helping to help kids understand how to pass classes, you know, by putting in the effort. So, but I do, that's what I see, and I see that more so since COVID, I feel.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, more
I
so,
agree.
like,
We
it
were-
doesn't really
we
matter,
were
it's gonna be
all- yeah.
pandemic, and we're just gonna.
COVID for us was all during middle school, just middle
Yeah.
school. Our entire middle school
Oh, that's so
experience was during
interesting.
COVID. And so all of the like and for younger years it's even worse. They had it during elementary school and kindergarten, and like it's crucial developmental years where socially we didn't have that experience. And like I know that I got depression, anxiety, all of these things from COVID, and I've had them since. And it's like it caused a lot of that, and so a lot of us just don't feel like there's like a lot to do, like, and like the world's like deteriorating around us, so it's like I can get why a lot of, because I feel like that sometimes. It's like systematic depression everywhere all the time.
Mhm.
And it keeps feeding itself.
That's the main point, is that it keeps feeding itself.
Over and over again. Yep. So that's the key. How do we get kids to get out of that cycle, and how can we help them to get out of that cycle? And just start young. And just start making sure that if they need services, we're providing them.
And then once more and more kids start getting out of the cycle, the bias may recede. But it's hard to figure that out like right away. So
It takes a while.
Yeah.
And not everyone will ever see themselves graduating, but do they see a different purpose?
yeah.
So right now, we're working with a very small group of kids, but we're working with them, okay, yeah, you're a senior or a junior with 3 credits. What's the likelihood you're gonna get 24 credits? Probably not there. Can we help you study for your GED and help you with some job coaching? And what are you interested in a job? And maybe through job exploration, then you find something you're interested in that you'll go to school for, or some, you know, a trade, be electrician, be whatever you want, you know, so that's kind of what
Opportunities.
that's what we're trying to work on right now. It's just a small group. But if it's a small group that it works, great, that's that less kids in the system.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. I don't know.
So let's bring it back to data. We'll request the data is what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
Leave the teacher identification out of it, but keep the school the demographic.
So just so you're aware, I
I'll do
did
that.
put it in bold about
Okay.
the teacher identifier, cause anyone reading these notes, I want them to know that we are not asking for the
Yep.
teacher
Mhm.
Okay,
identified information. I purposely bolded that.
perfect.
Do we
Right.
want to
You did a great
formally
job,
ask
thank
for
you.
a review of the handbooks? Like make a motion to the school committee that work start? Because it wouldn't be us that would be doing it, it would be like, I mean, we can review it, but like,
Is there a reason, is there a reason?
there's
Has
a,
anyone asked if
there's a
there's
lot of
purpose?
things that are different between recruit and middle school, not just the discipline policies, it really is like the whole handbook, and that's been something that we are trying to standardize, yeah. It goes back to like training and mindset and, you know. You can even see it in the bullying reports that come out of the 2 middle schools, you know, it's, the difference is striking.
I would also say, not that you're privy to this information, the write-ups are significantly different, like how they're written into the system.
One might say I micromanage that, but I do. Because I'll say you need to reword this, no, but you need to, people aren't trained to write something that's not,
Right.
you know, subjective and.
Could be
Especially when they're
subpoenaed at
written-
any time.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't say it like, no, I might say it like that, they know me well enough, but like, because that's what training needs, teachers need to. We don't want a lot, Rachel, right? But we don't want a whole story, the before, then, and after, and.
And we want it written neutrally, and I don't wanna
Right.
see
Neutrally.
people's
Right.
names in there, and you just need to write it flat.
Like a lawyer could read
But
it
a lot of
in a
times
day.
the minor
Right.
especially,
You know,
people are
'cause
mad and upset, so
that's
they're
the thing.
writing
I
them.
just look at it from a parent, what do I want this written?
You know, I'm-
Right, that's how I
Follow you.
Okay,
Should we ask for that, about the handbooks?
I think we should, but
Yeah.
that, like you said, it has
So,
immediate
would
tangible.
that
Well,
be
what's
a-
nice is
Yeah.
that's something tangible that we can like actually get our hands in and
Right.
work on,
Yep.
right?
so as for
I
the
like to work on
administrative
something.
review,
Yeah, we're gonna, like, I would say we would, you know,
So
make
who's
a
making the
request to the
motion?
school
Yeah.
committee. I'll make move that we request the school committee to, cause it's really an administrative function, but to task administration with reviewing the middle school handbooks. Specifically as it relates to discipline, like overall would be great, but for now, we'll just say discipline, with an eye towards modeling it after Davisville and the, academy. Yeah?
Task administration. Respect. Motion made to request the school committee to task administration with reviewing
middle school handbooks.
the
And
middle
we can still
school
review it in here, but that gets the ball rolling. with them.
handbooks, with an eye towards discipline.
Modeling it, yeah, specifically for discipline and modeling it after the way that, Davisville Academy is written. Cause you can tell that was done recently and with a, you know, a
Mhm.
positive and a restorative justice, you
Right.
know, like
And
all of that stuff,
safety care and
yeah.
all the other good
Yeah.
stuff that we've been
Yep.
going from, yep, it was.
So is that a motion then?
That's a motion.
All right, is there a second for that?
Second.
Second?
Ooh, there's thirds and fourths.
All right. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and so we'll ask
we
for the
did
data.
Is seconded, is seconded a word? Seconded doesn't look right, but I guess it's a word.
Yeah,
It's not you.
Seconded it.
so we'll ask for the data, we'll ask for an admin review of the middle school. For the data, since we wanted a small group to look at it and give us a synopsis version, for lack of a better term, who should do that review?
I would just say that we are gonna ask administration to provide the information in a summary
Okay,
format.
okay.
I can hear Ken
So-
cursing me right now in the other room.
Okay, all right, we can do that. All right, time is getting away, so let's move on to new business, annual meeting calendar. Did everybody see the tentative
I did
meeting
not.
dates?
They don't impact
Can I have one more?
anybody's.
Did I not? I'm
right there.
sorry.
No,
That
that's
was
okay.
me. Jen.
I did these with, Jules, just so you know, so they
I
don't
didn't
impact
give
your
myself one,
meetings
that's
at all,
awesome.
none of them.
Perfect.
Sorry, dear.
Meetings, but
I
you know,
know,
the
the
other
policy
subcommittees,
ones, yeah.
I like the consistent days, that works better.
Well, yeah, we tried to do the second or third week, but sometimes it impacted the other subcommittee that's happening, so I think Mondays seem to be the best day when I
Right.
hold people.
So Mondays, 4:30,
4:30.
does that work
Yeah.
for everybody the best?
I try to make it as close to your school time, but still, the people that have other jobs can get here.
And I
And you
think
get
we
home for
still need
dinner.
to poll the people who are not here or who don't come regularly to make sure that we're not,
I believe there was another, either PD or activity that some people were at, but
Right.
the other one is, there was also a meet that some
Yeah.
students went to,
Do we
so.
have like a Google form where we can do like, check off which times work best for you, check off which days work best for
We
you?
could do the
Yeah, I
poll
did
for
a
time.
doodle poll
Yeah.
last year, pretty sure
Maybe you
I
wanna
did.
do it again?
I could do it again, sure.
Okay. Just-
The dates are gonna be, are hard, I would just tell you that, in order to get this room.
okay.
I can do another doodle poll, it's always fun.
Does anybody have a problem with any dates? They look okay to people? Alright, so we'll shoot for 4:30, we'll send out a doodle poll just to see if another time would be preferable, just to see if we can get, better attendance at the meetings. from there. I know we kind of talked about a little bit about a survey with student groups. We talked about a survey or focus group with students regarding discipline experiences. I know the students here have shared beautifully
Right.
today. And I know you have kind of, you say you do surveys with the high school students
Quarterly,
quarterly?
Yep.
Okay.
a small group of them.
Does that survey focus at all on their experiences with
Oh, I'm sorry, the
discipline, or
student connection survey, is that what you're talking about?
That's
Well,
what it's
Sorry,
whatever
yes.
survey
Yeah, that's
you
what it
do,
means.
yeah.
Say that, your question one more time?
Does that involve specifically discipline areas or their experience with the discipline at the high school?
It doesn't. Right now, it encapsulates their connection to adults in the building, their connection to adults outside of the building, general safety in the building, and then their wellness, social emotional wellness in the building. We can certainly add a leg to it.
I was gonna ask, is
Yeah.
that something that we might be able to add onto? If other people agree that it might be useful to have some
How
current
often
student
is that
feedback.
done?
It's once a year.
Yeah,
The
see.
review of the discipline data is quarterly, but that goes out
Yeah.
once a year.
Isn't the connection survey though coming from another agency? Not PBIS or anything like that?
No, it comes from Sherry and Matt. They're the ones that analyze it.
Yeah, it's this, the connection survey though, I think the survey is
Platform.
platform.
No,
No,
they made it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it's a
so
Google
they must
form.
have based it off the
Yes.
PBIS one.
It's
Okay,
a Google form that's a
fine,
leg
we
off
can
of
add- I'm just
MTSS.
making sure we can add questions to it pretty easily.
Cause
Yeah.
one of our goals is to solicit student input about the
Right.
current
Yeah,
disciplinary
I can
system
do that.
throughout
Sure.
the district, so.
Yeah, we can definitely
Yeah.
do that.
Do we wanna like go to different clubs? Because I know that there are different demographics of students.
That's a good idea.
Good
So we
idea.
could go to clubs.
Yeah, I mean, we can't all travel, but some,
Yeah.
as long as no more than 2 people from this group go. I think
To
that's
talk
good.
about-
Students could probably do that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
That'd
even
be
if it's just informally and report back, or even if they wanna come speak at citizens' comments, or come be like
Yep.
a guest member for the meeting or whatever, yeah.
because I know a lot of
Like
kids from
student
Saga
union?
would have input,
Yes.
at the high school, so.
It's a
So,
good idea.
so when you say you wanna be part of the solution, you give them a notion.
So, is there a way to like reach out to all the club advisors and say, like, we'd love to hear from your
Mhm.
students?
Yeah. I'm just sending myself emails. Yeah.
Okay,
I like that idea. It's cool.
that's a good idea.
Maybe to unify it, I can make a just quick like Google form that they
Yes,
ask, but I feel like I'd rather send it to the group first to make
Yeah.
sure our
Sure.
eyes are on it,
Yep.
and then
yeah,
Well,
that
send
would
it to
bring
all,
it
that
here,
way we
yeah.
have like unified data.
When
Yep.
we bring it for the October meeting, hopefully that's the day, I'll still do a doodle poll, but it's in that.
perfect.
Perfect.
The clubs haven't like started yet though, like so.
Mhm.
So maybe by the time we look at it
Yeah.
in October, it'll be.
It'll be-
There are a lot of clubs, like,
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yes.
there's
Yes.
a
so
ton.
many.
So many.
Not met, like, I
All
just don't wanna
different
miss if
kinds.
it's
All
just the
different
students that are
All
involved with
different
something, we might be missing,
No,
so
like if
it's-
you
No,
wanna do it,
you're
there is a club
completely
for
correct.
you, yeah.
Awesome,
That there's all sorts of
Great.
demographic, that is a great idea.
awesome.
Awesome,
Jackie, am I
Okay.
giving you that job, to bring
Yep.
back the Google question?
Yeah,
okay,
I'll
awesome.
send it to you guys.
All right,
Okay, I got 2 minutes before the policy
Yep.
meeting starts,
so
so
we
unless
got
anybody wants
handbook
to stay for
request,
that.
data request, student, kind of poll the student clubs. Any other next steps that we wanna do for the time being, or are we good?
I think
to
we have
talk?
a lot, actually,
Yeah.
I feel really
Reviewing the
hopeful.
restorative still, or?
Yeah, we still need to,
I
yeah,
think
that's,
I
we
think
still-
everybody could still review the
Yes.
restorative
Yeah, please.
part,
Yeah.
you know, the Oakland Unified District, look at the Castle standards and make sure that, you know, see how that fits into the work that we're doing here.
Mhm.
Really dig into that more,
Mhm.
and then we can always talk about it next time.
And if we had someone from the middle school, I know there was some training on restorative at the middle school level a few years ago. So if we had a representative
Well, the membership, we need to
to
look at
kinda know
membership.
Yeah.
with,
Yeah, so we'll follow
What's
up
already
with
been
that
done.
and then do
We
some
can follow up with
targeted
that.
outreach,
Yep.
hopefully between now and October.
Okay,
Awesome, thank you.
motion to adjourn,
Second.
all right,
That's quick.
aye,
Thank you.
thank
Alright.
you.
There's some like type notes right from the beginning.
Okay.
I misunderstood my hand meetings, I was really crazy.
Have a great night, guys. Bye, dear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. She's like a
She's so
Yes.
passionate.